Welcome to Mainland Television's news weekly roundup for the Nelson Tasman region. I'm Graham O'Brien, and today's bulletin: Rose Renton gives her last interview, Nelson blesses the fleet, council's proposed spend-up causes critic to speak out, and more. Rose Renton, the mother of Nelson teenager Alex Renton, who passed away on Wednesday the 1st of July in Wellington Hospital, spoke to Mainland News this week in what she said was to be her last interview. Alex's family maintained a vigil by his bedside during that whole time. Rose spoke to Chrissy Small about that period and her struggles with the health system to be able to legitimately administer a cannabis oil product in an effort to help alleviate her son's seizures.
Rose Renton, it's really great to have you here. I believe this is going to be your last interview with the media until you've got your book all sorted and published. Yes. Now, this will be an interesting book, of course. It's going to document your whole time during the last 3 months, I believe,
yes, it will.
About Alex and the trials and tribulations that you've been going through as a family.
Yes.
Now, Rose, tell us about the time, this 3 months' time. Just give us a brief rundown on how it's been and the fight with the system that you've endured over this time.
Obviously the most traumatic experience of our life as a family, and aside from Alex's illness, which was a mystery from the beginning, it was more in the hospital system with no say and having all rights removed, both his and ours as a family, and not being heard and really being bullied, and they'll defend that, but they know better. And the diaries are able to give a day-by-day account of our personal experience of being in that environment when it was completely foreign. And we realised as a family we never had a voice.
Gosh, that's a tough thing to actually, feel when you've got someone critically ill in the family.
Yeah,
it must have felt really unsupportive.
It did. Dealing with the hospital and the doctors was far more traumatic than dealing with Alex's mysterious illness. And I don't think our health system, which is meant to be a healing system, should be anything like that. And I wouldn't want anyone to ever experience what we did as a family.
Do you think this is a common thing? Have you had others approach you?
Yes, definitely. This isn't anything new. This is something that I guess once you get out of the hospital, people are so traumatised that they just want to let it go and forget it. I'll never forget it.
Now tell me, Rose, what would your advice be to medical professionals in this situation? How do you suggest they deal with situations like this?
They need to deal with individuals. They need to work with families and the individual as a whole. They need to look at holistic healing and not just the body. They need to look at the bigger picture, and I felt that's what they never did. So many mistakes made simply because they just refused to listen. I know they're stuck in a system, but as healers they have a responsibility to the individual, because each person in that hospital environment is an individual with a story, and that reflects in our body. And unless they're prepared to listen to that, we're not going to get anywhere in our health system.
So you've been an advocate for alternative health
my whole life.
Yeah, and obviously it is rubbed off on Alex as well.
Yes, Alex and I had an understanding that we just didn't agree with traditional medicine in most cases. There are cases, obviously, you need it if you've had a car accident or you require heart surgery, and they are skilled. I'm not saying they're not skilled, but what I'm saying is that they do not know the answer to everything, and they need to get rid of the blinkers, get a bigger understanding of holistic healing, and treat people as individuals, not as mass. And I think that's what I noticed more than anything, is that in the critical care unit it was like being in a mass institution that was computerised, and the individual in the bed, if you knew them, wasn't treated as the individual. Probably 2 doctors out of that entire hospital, and they know who they are, related to me and to Jess and to our family and to Alex as individuals. 2 out of hundreds.
Yeah, so there's a real learning there for future doctors, people coming through the system, that actually they need to take it on a case by case and personal situation rather than treat them just like a number and a body.
Yeah, because we're a soul and we have emotions, and those things make up our wellness. And so you cannot treat a body just as a body, because we're multidimensional.
Yes. Do you think that this treatment of Alex possibly led to his
demise. His death?
I
don't know if we'll ever have answers. The Norse condition, which is the new onset refractory status epilepticus, which were the seizures that were not stopping, often a cause isn't found even after an autopsy. Obviously we chose not to have one for personal reasons, and I don't believe we'll ever find a cause for what happened, but I don't know if even that's what's at question here. I think the issues around Alex's health is we didn't get to choose our own treatment. Right. We had to fight with political laws and doctors as a last line treatment for the CBD oil. Why can't we have cannabis products in the medicine cabinet, and when we get into ICU or any medical environment, if we have a choice on what medicines we choose, then that's human rights. We should not be plied with chemical drugs with no choice, which is why I gained the legal guardianship. So I could make some choices, and the choices that Alex would make himself.
Once you were given the guardianship, did attitudes change towards you in the hospital?
Not really. They just got cleverer and tried to do things without my knowledge, and so I ended up having to write down and sign what I refused to have done. It made things more open because they had to communicate, because they knew they were breaking the law if they didn't. But until that guardianship was awarded, they were underhand often in their swap and change of drugs. At one stage, the thio, which was used as the sedation medication, was running out, and we were threatened with the medication running out, and what would they do next? So you have a child or a young man heavily sedated on a particular medication that I was told repeatedly over 10 days or more that it was running out.
Gosh.
And they were wanting to swap it with ketamine.
Right.
That's what you're dealing with.
Okay.
Threats.
So, yeah.
That's somebody's health. That's my child.
That's right. So they didn't ask you what you wanted?
No. They were not interested. They believe they have the onus on knowing. And this Norse condition, and I'm sure they've read up about it, they would know that regardless of what treatment is done, you don't get an outcome. So were they using him as a guinea pig for 3.5 months? Did they torture his body for that long? That's inhumane. And I often use the word barbaric, because that's how, for me, they came across.
The Nelson annual blessing of the fleet took place on the weekend after heavy rain changed the ceremony day from Saturday to the backup day of Sunday, with all the usual pomp and ceremony befitting this maritime event. All the usual suspects were there, including dignitaries Mayor Rachel Reese, Tasman Mayor Richard Kempthorne, MP for Nelson Nick Smith, Tasman MP Damien O'Connor, and Navy Commander Kathy Knight. There were displays to engage the large crowd which had gathered for this well-orchestrated event. The blessing of the fleet was conducted by Reverend Cotton, Father Gruschow, Archdeacon Andy Joseph, Bishop Richard Elena. Nelson is considered the largest fishing port in New Zealand, and many fishing trawlers were there to take part in the day's blessings. The event was also one of remembrance for those souls lost at sea, which was respected with a minute of silence from the crowd of over 1,000 people. All in all, it was a great day to see the fishing boats parading past and the many displays to show onlookers some of the perils that our fisherfolk can and do encounter. A new report released on the Trafalgar Centre sets out 5 scenarios to bring it up to spec, ranging from 12 million to 19 million. I spoke to Kerry Neal, who has followed this issue closely and brought to light some serious flaws in past reports. He gives us his comments on this latest one. Kerry, thanks for coming back and joining us again.
Pleasure to be here.
We've got yet another report from Council on the Trafalgar Centre. Very interesting. I read it in the early hours of this morning, and I'd just like to start with that. I read in that report there's 6 mays, 8 likelies, 3 unlikelies or not likely, 3 reasonables to assume, 1 could and 1 possible. So from that report, from reading that, it seemed to be quite hard to take anything seriously, really. How how about, can you tell us your thoughts on this?
Yeah, okay. Well, you're quite right. It's another rendition of a sorry saga. This must be about the 4th or 5th report now. The total sum for all this is approaching $1.7 million, and still nothing's happening. And the disturbing thing is now, of course, that where this issue started, they claimed that the ground was going to liquefy and the building was going to slump and distort and rotate and all sorts of dreadful things were going to happen. This report clearly indicates that that is a most unlikely scenario now.
Yep.
So all that initial fright has disappeared.
Yep.
And that needs to be taken seriously, because who do you believe in all this? Who can you rely on? The public is entitled to know something concrete, something positive out of this, and we're not getting it yet. As you will have read in there, there's still a process going on to still consider aspects of the building. And what do I read into that? I read into it that there is a lot of attempts still to cover for the inadequacies of those that got involved in the first place. Quite a normal human trait. Pride gets in the road, but we do the paying. Yeah. And the building's still closed. And remember that it was never ever stated in any report that the building had to close. That was just simply an opinion from a lawyer who thought he was doing the right thing at the time. It has since been proved that that was the wrong thing to do, but pride has got in the road again and the building's still shut. And that needs addressing. And you know, it's getting to the point where a lot of people are getting very, very upset about this, because we're still in a confused state.
Yeah, and it seems to be that we're still going on assumptions. I mean, to begin with, they assumed that the piles weren't deep enough, which you and your probably not so merry team found out. And then we were told that the chief engineer had based it on the assumptions of the report. Now, in this one, it's saying that the piles we know they're deep enough. Now they're saying that they may shear off, where before they might shear off because there was liquefaction. Now they just seem to be that they might just shear off. I mean,
that's an emotive. That's an extreme way of describing it. Shear in engineering terms means a slight distortion and possible fracturing, not
shearing
off.
Gotcha.
Okay. But the serious part about all this is that there is still a lack of acceptance that certain things were not done properly on the southern end in the first instance. The budget was blown. The building was not completed. Nelson City Council signed off that building illegally, because it is not up to what is termed fire rating standards. In other words, it's not fireproofed.
Yeah.
And there have been signs on the door, no public access now for years because of that. Now, nobody else could open a building in that condition. They would have just said, well, when you get it up to requirement, we'll certify it. So here we are being told that we need to spend some of this big sum of money, which is now about 13 million, but nobody's prepared to own up and say a portion of that money is to complete the southern end.
Yep.
Okay, these sort of things are all in the mix. On the northern end, they want to spend 4.1 million on a new building.
Yep.
Now, there is nothing wrong with the existing structure. As in any building, you can improve it, all right?
Yep.
You know, brackets where trusses join walls and whatnot, that's accepted. But to suggest that it is now too brittle,
I see that word in there.
where we've been told up until now that it was too likely to distort because the ground was going to move all around the place and there was no foundation, not an adequate foundation under it to stop it distorting. Now we're told, because they now have to accept there is a decent foundation under the building, that it's too brittle. So the lesson in that is don't build your building too good because you'll be told to pull it down.
We asked some local folks their opinions on $13 million of ratepayers' money being spent on the upgrade. The latest Trafalgar Centre report says at least $13 million needs to be spent on the upgrade. What do you think about that?
I really think it's worth it. We miss out on so much here in Nelson because we've got nowhere for these bigger overseas or entertainers to come here, like the ballet or the operas, and that we just don't get it here. So I would really like to see the whole of that building just demolished and started again.
You know, how much does it cost to dismantle it? Because that's the other thing. If it's this big empty building, something needs to be done with it. Maybe taken down. And so how much does that cost? And then perhaps just putting it to the community. What does the community want done? You know, what if we could say to everybody, if we gave you $13 million, would you fix the Trafalgar Centre? Or would you tear it down, and what would you put there? You know, what do you want done with this space?
If they can't do anything with it, we have been missing out on a lot of major things in Nelson, major functions, events, because of that. But and we do need to have a place like that in Nelson to get all these things, so I hope they can sort it out.
I never really go there, so I don't really reckon it's worth it, to be honest.
Well, as long as I'm not paying for it, it doesn't matter.
I'm from California originally, and now I live here in Nelson, and I've been in some big earthquakes, and I think that we really need to be assessing, especially, I think it's very important. I don't necessarily know the earthquake laws strictly, but certainly places where there are a lot of people frequently, they need to be very strict.
It's over the top again. I mean, just put up a sign, you know, that this building doesn't meet the earthquake regulations. Come inside at your own risk, you know. I mean, I'm a bit sort of, I'm anti-ACC, period. I mean, I would do away with ACC. I would do away with all this nanny statism, you know. If, you know, 13 million, is that what you said, 13 million? Ludicrous, ludicrous. Don't do it.
That's another thing that, you know, like, do we do all this, or do we just take our chances? Because there's a lot of money spent down those avenues in all towns, and I'm not sure whether it's worth it or not, whether we just wait and see.
Liquefaction of Nelson is an incredible issue that should be being discussed about. Like, we want to talk about earthquake safety. It's not about buildings falling down necessarily. It's about us having clean water. Hello. Clean water. Let's just stop right there.
Great.
Yeah.
Around 30 Green Party members braved a chilly evening to hear Green MP Kennedy Graham on Monday evening at NMIT. Speakers on climate change usually give predictions of the end is nigh kind, however this meeting was a little different. Kennedy did outline some advances being made in diplomatic circles with the upcoming Security Council, of which New Zealand has the presidency for this month, and the annual UN Summit on Climate Change to be held in Paris in November. I spoke with Greens MP Kennedy Graham about the upcoming meetings and their aims. Kennedy Graham, thanks for taking a couple of minutes to talk to us. I know it's late and it's been a long day for you.
Right.
You've got a couple of big meetings coming up that you were talking about before. Can you tell us a little bit about them and what's your aims?
Well, the first one is the United Nations Security Council, which is meeting in a couple of weeks' time. It meets almost every day, but in 10 days' time on July 30, it's got an open debate on the security of small island states. New Zealand happens to be the president of the Security Council this month, July 2015, and it's selected that subject. And of course, climate change, I think, is going to be high on the list of the security of small island states. So I'm calling on the Security Council now to take that particular debate as the occasion to declare climate change to be a threat to international peace and security, because we've got to a stage where it is clearly a danger to the whole international community, beginning with small island states.
And how do you think that'll go down at this time? It must be quite a big step for a lot of the countries to recognise that.
It will be a big step for the Security Council to take, but the Security Council has been inching towards that for some time. It first looked at the issue of security of climate change in April 2007, and it's revisited it on a number of occasions. It has already called climate change to be a risk multiplier to international peace. the Secretary General of the United Nations has said, in his view, it is a threat to international peace and security. So I think it's going to happen. Whether it happens on July 30 under New Zealand's presidency is another thing. Yeah.
Great, thanks very much. And you've also got the Paris Summit coming up, the annual Climate Change Summit. Can you tell us a little, just quickly about that?
That's a different kind of meeting altogether. That's the normal multilateral negotiations that the United Nations are having. But there's 195 parties to the Framework Convention, 1992. They're negotiating the targets to try to reduce their emissions to stay under 2-degree temperature increase. Those negotiations are going very slowly. They're very complex. And the question is, will we turn that around in time? And the relationship between those two meetings is that if you conclude that the international negotiations are going too slowly for us to turn things around in time to prevent dangerous climate change, then you have to look to the Security Council to act under binding powers. Yeah.
There is to be a second meeting with council representatives on the wood burner review on July the 30th at 5:30 p.m. at the Trafalgar Pavilion. The aim of the meeting and review is to find a fair and reasonable solution to keeping people warm in their homes while still meeting the national environmental standards. I spoke with Melissa Short, who gathered wide community support against the rules that make Nelson the strictest council by far throughout the country. Melissa, thanks very much for coming in. As everyone can see, you're a busy person. You've been on the wood burners for a while now. Can you tell us a little bit about why you feel the rules need to be changed or relaxed?
Yeah, so I feel strongly that they need to be changed, the current rules, and it's fundamentally because they're not listening to what the community want. They're not responding to the needs of the community.
Right, and by they you're talking about?
The rules.
Yeah. And since you started and you raised the petition, and I know the petition got quite a number of signatures.
Yes, it did. It was about 800 or 900 signatures.
So so this is what kicked it off, the 800 or 900 signatures, and then you realised it wasn't just you.
Exactly that, yeah.
And so since then, has there been any more information that come out? Have there been any more reviews, or has anyone come out and given us more information that backs up your claims that the rules are not fair, basically?
Yeah, they're not fair, and I'd go further and say that they're actually causing probably more harm than good. The balance is tipped. The Commissioner for the Environment, the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment, Jan Wright, published her air quality report earlier this year in March. And the conclusions she drew, actually her final statement was along the lines of, if by lowering emissions we are creating more cold and damp homes, then that is counterproductive.
And as you could tell, young Sam thoroughly enjoyed watching himself on TV. That's it for this week, and after the break we'll bring you the latest weather update and some events and happenings coming up from around the region.
Edward Gibbon, the bathroom specialist, have a great range of bathroom ideas at their showroom at 23 McGlashan Ave in Richmond. Call in and check out some of the latest bathroom designs and fittings. Edward Gibbon, the bathroom plumbing and drainage supply specialist, 23 McGlashan Ave, Richmond.
Welcome me hearties to Smuggler's Pub and Cafe, famous for hearty meals, craft ales and a friendly service way. Sensational seasonal menus with meals all day and evening too, or sail in for a snack with special menus for young smugglers and you. Settle in for a jolly old time, relax and enjoy our award-winning dining and lovely fine wine. Decked out in an old worldly way, we're open 7 days. Book or come on in to 8 Muritai Street, not far from a beach, walk or swim. Phone 546408.
I'm Francis from Nelson Auto Glass. We repair all auto glass, stone chips, windscreen replacements, scratch removal.
If you have an auto glass issue, our team will sort it.
Nelson Auto Glass Specialist, 84 Vanguard Street, Nelson.
Hi, my name's Ian Mortimer. Mortimer Auto Upholstery is your one-stop shop for all your upholstery needs. We do car and boat interiors, boat canopies, ute tonneau covers, canvas and PVC fabrication. Call in and see us in Oxford Mews, 72 Oxford Street, Richmond.
August the 15th at 11 a.m. at 1903 Square is when Nelson will join a nationwide protest against the signing of the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. Join this protest demanding the government walk away from this secret deal. On behalf of the team here at Mainland Television News, thank you once again for joining us for our last end of the week news roundup, and we'll be back again in September after a short break.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
This is a beautiful 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home. It's large internal access double garage. It fits 2 cars nicely with a little workshop bench at the end of it. In this room we have 2 large lazy boys, a 3-seater and a 2-seater leather lounge suite, 50-inch Samsung TV and a heat pump. Features are a cathedral ceiling and of course that beautiful view.
For relatively little cost, you too can sell your house. Do it yourself. You're the best person to promote and sell your own house. Your personal endorsement is the best selling proposition. Put yourself on screen and sell it. You know the attractions of your house. You know it better than anybody else. So, get up there and tell us all about it. Sell it.
Upstairs we have 3 bedrooms. One of these has a full ensuite. That's the master bedroom with large bifold doors. Now out these bifold doors you get to a wraparound deck area that faces northwest, and this is lovely in the morning for sitting and having your coffee.
Hawk Films is now producing for you an advertising package and a broadcasting service at a price far lower than you would expect. We will produce your advertising video and feature it across TV, radio and electronic media. Your message will be up to 3 minutes long and it'll be broadcast 5 times a day on radio and TV. 5 times a day. And it will be listed online all day, every day, for exposure to your potential buyers. You can also use the ad and the photos to promote your house on radio, TV, Trade Me and other real estate sites. We can also offer drone aerial shots for a totally different viewpoint from the one you would normally see. Selling your house is up to you and your solicitor. We're here to merely add value to your advertising strategy. Give me a call and let's get your property on the market. Or better still, email or text me and I'll call you back.
Edward Gibbon, the bathroom specialist, have a great range of bathroom ideas at their showroom at 23 McGlashan Ave in Richmond. Call in and check out some of the latest bathroom designs and fittings. Edward Gibbon, the bathroom plumbing and drainage supply specialist, 23 McGlashan Ave, Richmond.
Nelson Tire Center, great prices, great service. Buy your own Bryford trailer, all types, all sizes. See Colin Douglas for your tires and batteries.